Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I am bringing you guys my Dream Mirror deck profile. This is a deck profile that I have been working on for a very long time, and I'm very excited that they just got new support in Blazing Vortex, so I want to bring you guys this deck profile. This was a deck that originally came out in Rising Rampage, and I picked up all of the cards way back when, but now the deck finally has a little bit of extra support with the new fusion, as well as a few new cards in the main deck. So without any further ado, let's get on with the deck. This is going to be more of a budget build. You guys can sort of tinker around with extra, like other expensive cards like Pot of Extravagance and Pot of Prosperity if you guys want to, but as of now, I'm just sort of running this as a budget build, just as a for fun deck. So basically what this deck does is that all of the monsters in the main deck have a counterpart that works as their light or their dark half. And basically they all revolve around field spells. So the field spells are very, very important to the deck. And so they all have the same basic effect that when the field spell is out that is of the opposite attribute, so if you have the dark field spell, then you can take a light monster and switch it for the dark counterpart, and vice versa. If you have a dark monster out on the field and you have the light field spell, then you can swap things around. And then they also have their own effects when they're special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror card. So with the Achilleos, the Dream Mirror sprite, basically what this card does is that when it's special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can then add one Dream Mirror card from your deck to your hand. This is basically one of the best cards in your main deck next to the 3 copies of Mara that we play. So again, these are the light and dark counterparts. These are your main engine of the deck because the sprite adds one Dream Mirror card when it's special summoned, and then you have the Mara, which when this card gets special summoned, you get to special summon another Dream Mirror monster from your hand, which is really nice because you can either just add a really good spell or trap with the sprite, or you can add a monster, swap this out to special summon this from the deck, and then the Mara will be able to special summon whatever you just added to the hand with the sprite. So these cards just work so fantastic for getting out whatever specific cards you need out of the deck. And also, one last thing I should mention is that they can do the tag in and out during the main or battle phase, which is really spectacular because you can make your opponent combo during their main phase and then swap out for whatever you need from the main deck, or you can also do it during your battle phase, and then you can potentially OTK your opponent. These guys are a little bit weak, but we do have some bigger monsters in the deck. So then we're going to go on into the 2 copies of the Phantasos, the Dream Mirror Friend. So with this card, when it gets special summoned, you can special summon another level 8 or lower Dream Mirror monster from your graveyard, which is really fantastic just to get a little bit of extra board presence. It's basically just a big defense wall after that with 1900 defense. And then we go on into its dark counterpart, which is also pretty decent, not quite as good as the light, but we have the Dream Mirror Foe. So with this card, it can basically, when it gets special summoned, it can attack directly for the turn, which is okay just to poke for that extra 1900 damage if you want. This is one card that I would consider bumping down to only 1 copy, but as of now I'm just playing it as a 2 of because it just is a nice little level 4 engine to run in the deck. Also, I should mention that I am pushing my limits a little bit here. This is a 43 card build just because the engine is a little bit bigger and there is a secondary engine that you run in the deck, so it gets a little bit bigger, but 43 cards was as tight as I wanted to put it. Then we're going to go on into our 2 copies of Morpheus, the Dream Mirror Black Knight. So this is your basic main deck boss monster of the deck. So when he gets special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror, you can then destroy, target 1 card on the field and then destroy it. So he's just nice for a little bit of spot removal. And then we play only 1 copy of the Morpheus, the White Knight. This card's just not really quite as good. This is a really nice big defense wall though, because it has 2800 defense. And then when this card gets special summoned, then you can activate the effect so that it cannot be targeted, or so that it can't be destroyed by battle for the rest of the turn. and it also cannot be destroyed by card effects. So basically, if your opponent is going full-time combo and they try to break your board, if they try to target your Morpheus to get it off of the field, like with a Nightmare Unicorn or something, then when they establish the target, then you can just quick effect, special summon out the White Knight from the main deck. They'll lose their target, put this in as a big defense wall, and then you basically get to just stall out your opponent for their turn, which is really, really cool just to have that big defense wall out there. Then we're going on into the new copy of Neroy, the Dream Mirror Disciple. So he's okay to just play as a one of, I think. He's not really that great. He's just basically a extender for the deck. So with him, when you have a Dream Mirror on the field, you can then special summon him from the hand. And then also after he gets special summoned by this effect, then he's treated as a dark monster as well on the field. So he has a little bit of like light and dark synergy, which is okay. It doesn't really come up that often. And then also when this card is on the, when this card gets special summoned, you can then target one of your opponent's spell and traps as long as you have the light field spell, the Dream Mirror Joy. So target one of your opponent's spell or trap cards and bounce it back to the hand. And then if you have Dream Mirror Terror on the field, you after that effect goes off, then you can draw one card and then shuffle one card back into the deck. So it is possible to get both field spells out onto the field. You just end up giving one to your opponent. We'll get into that a little bit later. Then for our Chaos Engine, we're playing the one copy each of the Wyver Buster and Collapse Serpent. These cards are really amazing in here just as little extenders, and they're completely searchable by another card in the deck. Then for the last parts of the Chaos Engine that we're running is 3 copies of the Chaos Daedalus. So with this card, it's really amazing in here because like I just mentioned with the Oneros, or the Neroy, you can actually get both field spells onto the field. So then with the Chaos Daedalus, when this card is special summoned, or just when it's on the field, you can then target up to, or you get to target cards on the field up to the number of field spells that are on the field and then banish them. So if you're if you have both field spells on the field, or if you just have one and your opponent also has their field spell, then you can just banish 2 cards, which is really, really awesome. And then also while this card is on the field, your opponent also cannot target light or dark monsters for effects, which is just nice to have a little bit of built-in protection for the deck. So again, this whole deck is basically all light and dark. It's all light and dark in the main deck, and then the extra deck, there's a little bit of variation. But now let's get on into the spells. So like I said, we have our 3 copies of the Dream Mirror Joy. This is our light field spell. And then we have the 3 copies of the Dream Mirror Terror. So these are the cards that you're going to be swapping in and out throughout the whole duel. So with the Dream Mirror Joy, while this card is on the field, during the end phase with both of these, you can swap them out for the other one. So you just need to make sure that you kind of look at what's in your hand and on your field. Or if you're top decking, you need to kind of sort of like look at your assets that are hopefully still in the deck, and you gamble a little bit with this deck, that you try to pick what you're going to top deck off or what combo pieces you need to get off on your following turn, because this all happens during you and your opponent's end phases. So it does get a little bit tricky. It takes a while to figure out how to do all this. But then also with the Dream Mirror of Joy, while this is on the field, your opponent cannot target your Dream Mirror monsters for attacks or for card effects, except for the monster with the highest level. So as long as you can get out like your Morpheus, the White Knight, then your opponent can't destroy it with battle or card effects. So then you end up actually getting really, really safe there. Then with your Dream Mirror of Terror, while this card's on the field, your opponent takes 300 damage every time they special summon a monster, which really doesn't help that much, but it is still just kind of cool to get this on the field, and then you get to do a little bit of burn damage. The main effects are not with these cards. The main stuff is what they actually allow your monsters to do. That's where the real power comes from in the deck. And then they also just allow a whole bunch of other effects to go off with your spell and trap cards. So we'll get into the rest of the spells now. So we have our 3 copies of the Dream Mirror of Chaos. This is your polymerization of the deck. It's also a quick play spell, so it's really awesome. Again, this deck has a lot of OTK potential, so if this card's in your hand, you can activate this during the battle phase and then get a quick fusion off, which is really amazing. So with this card, when you have your Dream Mirror Joy on the field, you can actually use materials in your hand for the fusion summon. Otherwise, you just have to use materials on the field. And then when you have your Terror on the field, which is really amazing, you get to banish the materials from the graveyard in order to do the fusion summon. So I really try to keep Terror on the field because this is the card that's really, really awesome when you can get it off with Chaos. So if your graveyard is filled up, you can use the Chaos with banishing cards from the graveyard, which gives you basically a free fusion summon. Then we'll go on into our 3 copies of Dream Mirror Phantasms. This card is really amazing as well. You need to play this card at 3 because it just helps your deck so much. So continuous spell, when this card's activated, you can add a Dream Mirror monster from your deck to your hand. So just a really easy, simple searcher. And then also, while this card's on the field, your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack if you have Dream Mirror Joy on the field. And then if you have Dream Mirror Terror on the field, I flipped that around. If you have Dream Mirror Joy, all of your monsters gain 500, and then if you have Terror on the field, all of your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack, which is really cool just to help sort of change up the game because not all of the monsters in the main deck have a whole lot of power, so it is really cool to just sort of juice your guys up and then make your opponent's monsters go down a little bit. Then we'll go on into 3 copies of Chaos Space. This is what's going to search out your Chaos monsters, which is really amazing and just helps the engine keep going. 1 copy of Terraforming because we're playing 6 field spells in the deck. 1 copy of Called by the Grave just to make sure that our combos go through. Then we're going to go on into the traps. So the best trap of the deck, hands down, this is the card that really gets things cooking. So Dream Mirror Hypnagogia. What this card does is that you activate both of your field spells from your deck or your hand, which is really cool. Then I generally try to put Terror on my side of the field, and then you put the Joy on your opponent's side of the field. And then either way, it still helps all of your effects go off because with these guys, their effects go off as long as the Dream Mirror cards, the field spells, are just on the field. It doesn't have to be on your side of the field. So it's super, super good. Then we'll go on into 3 copies of Oneromancy. So this is your counter trap for the deck. So when you have Joy on the field and your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can negate that card effect. And then if you have Dream Mirror Terror on the field and your opponent special summons a monster, you can negate that summon. So it's okay. I wish this card would be a little bit better and would just be like an Omni negate, and then it would have like a bonus effect depending on what field spell you have, but it is still okay. Then we'll go on into 2 copies of the new Dream Mirror Recap. So this is a continuous trap, and basically what this card does is that instead of you tributing your monsters to special summon its counterpart from the deck, you then are able to just shuffle that card back into the deck, which is really helpful for if you're taking like your 1 copy of your White Knight and you're tributing it. Then instead of tributing it, you get to just put it back into the main deck, and then you're able to use the Black Knight later to then bring the White Knight back. So it's pretty cool just to get a little bit of extra shuffling going around. And then lastly, while this card is on the field, you can send it to the graveyard in order to activate one of your banished field spells. So you have the Dream Mirror Joy or Terror. They actually activate them. They activate the counterpart by banishing. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So when one of them gets banished off of their own effect, you can then send this in order to activate the next one in case you start running out of your field spells. And then you can special summon one of your Dream Mirrors from your hand as long as it mentions that card's name in its text. Then for our last trap, sorry, I almost forgot about this, we have the Dream Mirror Fantasy. So with Dream Mirror Fantasy, if you control a Dream Mirror monster, you can target both of your banished Dream Mirror Joy and Terror, and then shuffle them back into the deck, and then banish 1 card on the field, which is okay. We have plenty of other ways to banish stuff, so it's really not that important. But then this card can give us a little bit of protection also because you can banish it from the graveyard in order to stop any of your Dream Mirror cards from getting destroyed. So it is pretty nice as a one-of just to get it on the field and then bop it into the graveyard, and then you get a little bit of protection when your opponent's trying to blow up your board. But that's going to do it for the main deck. I absolutely love this deck. It's so sweet. So let's get on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we have our 2 copies of the new Oneros, the Dream Mirror Tormentor. This card is so good for the deck. It really helps boost up the power level. The only downside to the fusion monsters is that they're level 10, so you can't special summon them off of your Phantassos, the Dream Mirror friend. But what this card does is that while it's on the field, it's treated as a dark and a light monster, which is pretty cool. 3,000 attack and defense, which is really amazing, just as a boss monster to, again, fusion summon into with your quick play fusion spell. And then when this card is on the field, if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can quick effect, negate that effect, and destroy the card, which is really nice just to have a really simple negate for the deck. So you have to have the Dream Mirror Terror field spell on the field to activate that, but it is a quick effect, which is really cool. And then if Dream Mirror Joy is on the field as a quick effect, you can tribute this card in order to special summon the other fusion card from the extra deck. So we have, for the other fusion, we have the Oneros, the Dream Mirror Urkling. So what this card does is that it's also treated as a dark monster on the field. So just like this, both of these guys are treated as light and dark. And then also, whenever a Dream Mirror monster is tributed, you can activate this effect as long as you have Dream Mirror Joy on the field to target one card on the field and destroy it. Or I'm sorry, you don't need to have the field spell for this one. The only ones with the restriction on the field spell is with the Tormentor. So then the other effect with this guy is that if this card gets destroyed by your opponent's card, then you can special summon another Dream Mirror monster from your graveyard. So the really amazing thing you can do with this is I always go into the Tormentor first. So you go into Tormentor, negate a monster effect, and then you can tribute this card later in order to special summon the Oneros from the extra deck. And then if Oneros gets destroyed, then you can just special summon this back onto the field. So these cards can kind of swap around. It's really amazing how they work together. Then for the rest of the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Tornado Dragon as well as 1 copy of Baguska. We have a good handful of rank 4s that we can go into, or we have a lot of level 4s in the deck, so we can go into a couple of these. The Tornado Dragon is just really nice for getting rid of problem cards, and then the Baguska is just kind of there in case your opponent makes you go first and you don't really open up that well. Then we're going on into 1 copy of Relinquished Anima and 1 copy of Link Karibo, because of course we're playing a bunch of level 1s. We're going to play these cards. 1 copy of Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep is really insane in this deck because if you go into the Tormentor on your turn and then you tribute him during your opponent's turn for the Urkling, then that means that you can get Cross Sheep's effect off for fusion summoning a whole bunch, which is really awesome. 1 copy of Wee Witch's Apprentice. You could also play the Hippo Shinnigan, but I decided not to play it. 1 copy of IP Masquerena, as well as the Nightmare package, just to help out there. And then lastly, 1 copy of Boral Sword Dragon, just to help us OTK our opponent if we can. You can obviously swap around a lot of cards in the extra deck here. It's not that important. I just do recommend at least 2 copies of the Tormentor and then 1 or 2 copies of the Urkling. These are a few cards you kind of swap around. But again, if you want to play Extravagance in the deck, you can do that as well. And then just increase these numbers to 3. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for my deck profile. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed bringing this one to you guys. It's been one of my favorites ever since it came out. I just didn't really feel comfortable profiling it before now, but yeah, definitely now I think that the power level is okay enough that you can play it really casually. Just one last thing, in case you guys have never noticed this on these cards, is that these cards are really cool in the artwork. You need to look into the background of the cards, but since it is a Dream Mirror deck, you can actually see in the mirror behind all of the cards the light or dark counterpart of them in the background. So on the Mara, it is a little bit hard to see, but you can see the Dream Mirror sprite on the other side. It's really awesome to see. If I can find it really quick. On the Morpheus, the light one, the White Knight, it looks really sweet on there because you can see the big red sword of the Black Knight, which is really cool. So just something to look at. I kind of always find something new on all of the artwork when I tinker around with this deck and when I just sort of stare at the artwork. So definitely encourage you guys to pick this deck up. It's really fun. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you guys haven't already. And also check me out on Twitch and join the Facebook group if you guys are interested in dueling on EDO Pro. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.